Okay, I'm here. Okay, so today I'm going to be demonstrating dog biscuits for our first recipe, Project Dog Biscuits. This is a practice run before we actually get into the labs and preparing food that we'll actually be eating. So I have all my equipment out, and your equipment will always be out. I then took my milk from my shared table. I took an egg from the shared table as well, and then the egg is going to go right into the custard bowl, and then it only calls for 2 other ingredients. So like I told you, you're going to be taking 2 other ingredients or ingredients from your lab. They are not going to be out because there's really not going to be room with everybody back in the lab. I then have my wheat germ and my whole wheat flour. So once your hands are washed, I've washed my hands, I have my apron on, and I have my hair up. You will call me over, you have all your equipment, you have all your ingredients, and everybody's ready to roll. Okay, at that point, I will okay you to move on, and then everybody will be measuring at the same time. So if your name is next to one of the ingredients, you're all gonna just get started, okay? Because there's a thing about time, all right, and not having enough time. So this is a 1-day lab. So I get to do everything. So I have 1 egg. With an egg, you're always going to give it a nice big crack on the side. I like to make sure. And then I have it open, and then I'm just going to put the egg in there, and I'm just going to put my shell over on a tray there, and I just got a little bit on the counter that I just wiped up. Okay, so I have my egg. It then calls for 1/4 cup of milk. I'm going to grab that liquid measuring cup. I'm going to grab my glasses because you know I can't see without them. You always measure at eye level on a flat surface. So I'm going to get all the way down and get to that line. Perfect. That's my 1/4 cup. This you would put back on the shared table because everybody is going to need that apparently. It's open a little, and I'm not redoing this video again, and I got some over here too. That calls for 1 cup of whole wheat flour. So you're gonna have wax paper that's in this packaging here, and then we just received some wax paper that's in sheets. Okay, so you can cut this to size. I'm gonna say it's the first time you guys are measuring, so there's a variety. I would use the 1 big piece, okay? You always need a spoon. I need a 1 cup measuring cup. I'm gonna grab my leveler, and then you always lightly spoon and level off your flour, okay? So I'm gonna put my measured amount on here. Now this container is big enough for me not to spill it, but I have another half piece to kind of help me out here just in case. So you always lightly spoon. So you see that I can do this right over the counter or over the container. Okay, and I'm not spilling it. You can go like this because again, I have that piece of wax paper there. You don't want it just to be going on the counter. So you always heap it over, which means you pile it over the 1 cup measurement. I'm gonna then grab my leveler. You don't use a leveler like this, you use it like that, and then you're going to level off. I'm gonna put my measured amount on that large piece of wax paper. You're going to then put any extra whole wheat flour back in the container. You're going to leave your whole wheat flour out because you're going to need that to lightly flour your surface. And then somebody else should be measuring the 1½ tablespoons of wheat germ. So I'm just going to cut this piece like that. I suggest, and I'm going to have the triangle shaped measuring spoons out, and it already has a 1½ tablespoon measuring spoon. So you're still going to do the same thing. Take the cover off. I have a little bit on here. I'm going to grab my leveler. There's more than 1 leveler on the tray as well, so more than 1 person can measure at the same time. So this is small enough where maybe I don't need that other piece of wax paper. Hope you guys, there you go. There's the milk. Move, Mrs. Sauer. Deep breaths, deep breaths. You're going to level off again. I leveled it right off into my container. I could put it on here or here because I didn't get anything on there, okay? And those are all my ingredients. So I said that there were only 4 ingredients with this recipe. Now I am working with a cord here. I'd like you to put things away once you've used them. It just gives you more space, Okay, so you would call me over. The manager would say, Mrs. Sauer, we're ready. I'll check that you have a 1/4 cup of milk, your 1 egg cracked, no shell, no blood, your 1½ tablespoons of your wheat germ, and then your 1 cup of flour. And then I'm going to allow you to move on. My oven is already preheated, and I actually already have a batch of dog biscuits to show you what they look like. I'm just looking for my glasses, and as usual, they're on my head. All right, it says to pour your egg, your wheat germ, and your milk into a medium-sized bowl and beat with a fork. So this time around, we are not using the electric mixing bowl. Okay, so some recipes we're just going to do by hand, and some recipes we're going to use the electric mixing bowl. So my egg, I'm going to carefully pour my wheat germ. You see I'm bringing my bowl to my wheat germ. My wheat germ, get that to the side. That's going to be garbage. My milk. Not my flour yet, because it tells me to then beat with the fork, okay? So I'm just gonna take and I'm gonna break that egg up. Any of these dirty things, because I'm one person, should be starting to get cleaned by the dishwasher, and the runner will be doing the dishes. So once you get to the directions, it's 2 people working side by side, doing the mixing and stirring, the other 2 people doing the dishes. So I broke that up and I've mixed that up. I'm going to move on to the next step, which is to add my whole wheat flour. So again, I'm going to bring my whole wheat flour. I'm going to make sure I'm following the directions into my medium-sized bowl. And then I'm going to continue stirring with my fork. And what it should do is start forming a soft dough and actually come off the side of the bowl. So I'm just going back and forth, back and forth. I just keep kind of scraping. Hopefully you guys can see. And I'm using the back side of my fork to kind of push everything together. It's not going to miraculously just come together. So it's going to take some time. I keep pushing it in. You should not need more milk if you're doing this properly. So again, I'm just taking the back of my fork. I'm lifting up any dry ingredients. So students today are going to say, oh, what are you cooking in here today, Mrs. Sauer? And it's dog biscuits. They actually smell pretty good. Okay, so going to the dogs, to the Islip Animal Shelter. It's not only always about us, it's about our furry friends too. Okay, so you see how it's come off the side of the bowl, and I'm just using the back of my fork. It's going to come together once I get it into my hands, but nothing is really stuck to the bowl. It's come off the side of the bowl. Okay, so my next direction says to lightly flour my surface. So again, we're going to use the whole wheat flour. Lightly means lightly, so I'm going to say just a little coating like that. And then it basically says, glasses again. Okay, add a dusting of dough before forming and possibly add a dusting. So right now I can add a little bit onto my disc, not too much, because then it's going to dry it out, right? So I'm going to kind of form it all together in my hands. I'm forming it into a disc, just flatten it out a little bit. I'm going to put it here. And then I'm going to grab my rolling pin. So I like to sometimes put a little bit of flour on the outside of my rolling pin. And I'm going to roll it out from the center in all directions. So you're going to notice that I'm not using, I'm just trying to get my pan ready because it's a time thing. The bell's going to be ringing soon. I'm going to go, I don't like to use my handles, all right? So I suggest you don't either. Go very lightly, okay? Because you want it to be uniform in the same thickness as well. I think I lost some of my flour. So center out in all directions, just like if we were making maybe sugar cookies or a pizza. Center out in all directions. I don't want to push it down too much because then you get the marks from the rolling pin. So it says to go about 1/4 of an inch to 1/8 of an inch. We're definitely not going to go thick with these. We're going to try to make as many as we possibly can. Okay, it doesn't make a lot, but with me doing it with 5 classes and Miss Mills doing it with another class, that's going to be 6 classes making them. So we're going to have a few hundred dog biscuits. So I'm going to say that's good. You're going to notice I have a leveler handy. Okay, I have my dog biscuit cutter that you're going to grab from the shared table. One side is sharper than the other, so you're going to use that side to cut, right? So I like to dip it in the flour. Again, keep that flour out. You're not going to go right in the middle. You're going to go to the side, and you're going to try to get and cut as many as you possibly can, and you're going to push down. Sometimes it comes right out, or you're going to lightly push it down. So I'm one person. So the other person who is working, whether it's the head cook or the assistant cook, they could be making the marks with the tines of the fork. All right, so I'm just then lightly pushing. And I keep going nice and close to the edge. And then any leftover dough that you have, you're going to, of course, re-roll those scraps and get more dog biscuits. So it's going to depend on a time thing as well. You should be able to roll twice, okay? As far as a third time with dough, I'll make that call. But when I look at the clock to see how much time, because it is your first lab, and it could be complete chaos, or it can run completely smooth, okay? Those are my hopes and dreams, right? I'm going to take all that extra. I'm going to re-roll it one more time just to show you. And I'm going to show you what the dog biscuits look like at the end. So again, I'm quickly forming it in my hands, because the more you handle it, the warmer it's going to get, and the stickier it's going to get, that it's going to stick to your counter. Okay, so I didn't even need to take it off with this. So I formed it into a disc. I have enough flour here, and I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to go from the center out in all directions. You don't want to push down a lot. I'm just very gently going from the center out in all directions. And you see I'm getting a circular shape because I'm going from the center out in all directions. And that's what my directions say. Okay, so it's very important to read your directions when it comes to cooking and baking, because you want to be able to eat your end product. Okay, even if we're not eating these, we want the dogs to enjoy the biscuits. Our name is going to be attached to it, so we want them to taste really good. So I went about the same thickness. I'm going to go back again, and I'm going to get as many as I can with this, and then I'm going to call it a wrap. All right, so they're about the same thickness. I have a little bit extra there. And then I'll show you what you do with the tines of the fork. And I sure do hope my microphone is working this time, because I already deleted the other video. You don't know how mad I was. I was totally done. I was like, that went awesome. Very good. Nobody came to my door. I had a note on it. And then I looked on the counter across from where I'm working, and my microphone was there. And you cannot hear if I don't have my microphone attached, because my phone is complete trash and I need a new one. Okay. All right, I don't want to put this on the flour, all right? So, because then it forms a smell in the oven, and my glasses are falling off. So while somebody's doing the cutting and placing them on, somebody else can be taking the tines of the fork. Hope you can see me, and you could just go in the middle if you want. You don't have to do this at all. It's going to depend on time. I should probably have my key off, and then you could go another one. Whoops. At each edge. Now, I'm under a time constraint right now because there's 4 minutes before the bell rings. But the good thing is I'm not teaching next period, but I do have to clean up and get ready, okay? So I got 12, but I know I could get 1 or 2 more. So if you have time, you would roll this out. So at this point, just remember, parchment paper replaces greasing a cookie sheet, but it's also very slippery, so you do have to be careful with it. I'm going to pop these into the oven for 20 minutes. The other batch took 20 minutes. I have 2 oven mitts on. I'm going to open up my door all the way, push it in, and then I'm going to put my timer on for 20 minutes, and I'm just going to show you. These are the dog biscuits that I already made. They're a little hard. When you're not going to be here to take them out. I'll just kind of take them because now they're cool, and I just pop them into a bowl. We take the paper off, throw it out, and another class can use this. You'll see that parchment paper does brown a little bit though, okay? But parchment paper is different than wax paper. Parchment paper can go in the oven, wax paper cannot. So that's dog biscuits, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope it's helpful for the first time in your lab. And I do hope that dogs love our biscuits.